Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Easy English Spark channel. I'm thrilled to have you here today as we wrap up an incredible journey through 11 powerful chapters that will skyrocket your English listening and speaking skills. Whether you've been following us step by step or just tuning in, I'm so glad you're with us. Today, we're going to take everything we've learned, how to boost your listening, expand your vocabulary, and speak confidently in English, and put it all into action. If you're ready to dive deeper into practical, everyday learning, stay with me as we explore how to create habits, stay motivated, and take charge of your English listening and speaking skills. So, let's get started and make your English skills sparkle like never before. Chapter 1. Introduction to Listening to English. First point. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this first chapter, where we'll dive into the importance of listening to English the right way. I want you to think about something for a moment. When you hear someone speaking in English, what's your first reaction? Are you trying to understand everything by translating it into your mother tongue? I know many of you do that. It's natural, right? When we hear something unfamiliar, we try to make sense of it by translating the words into a language we know well. But here's the thing. This habit of translating is actually holding you back. From today, I want you to do something different. I want you to stop translating English into your native language when you listen to it. Instead, focus on understanding the English directly without filtering it through the lens of your first language. This might sound a bit challenging at first, but it's incredibly powerful. Let me explain why. When you constantly translate, you're not truly engaging with the English language. You're filtering it through your own language, and that keeps you from understanding English as it really is. You're not building your direct understanding of English. Think of it like this. Imagine you're learning to ride a bike, but every time you try to move forward, you keep stopping to look at the manual. You can't truly feel the movement of the bike unless you start riding without constantly checking the manual. In the same way, you need to experience English as it is, without constantly checking your first language. So, what should you do instead? The next time you listen to English, listen actively. Try to get the meaning from the context, the tone, and the structure of the language. At first, this might feel like you're missing out on details, but trust me, this is how you'll start to think in English. It's not about translating word for word, but rather, it's about getting a feel for how the language flows and works. Let's take an example. Imagine you're listening to someone talk about their day. If you translate everything they say into your own language, you'll understand the meaning, but you'll miss out on the rhythm, the sentence structures, and how the words fit together in English. These are the things that truly shape the way you speak and think in English. But if you try to understand the meaning in English directly, you'll start to feel the way the language is constructed, and that's when you begin to improve. This process takes time, and it might feel uncomfortable at first. But every time you listen to English and don't translate, you'll be one step closer to thinking in English. The more you practice this, the less you'll rely on your native language. And soon, English will become your natural way of thinking and understanding. So, from today, try to make this shift. Stop translating and start thinking and understanding directly in English. This small change in how you listen will open up a whole new world of possibilities for your language learning journey. The more you listen in this way, the more comfortable and confident you'll become with English. Remember, it's not about understanding every single word. It's about getting the big picture and feeling the flow of the language. The key to mastering English is not translating, it's immersing yourself in it. This is the first step to fluency, and trust me, you're on the right path. So, let's start this new journey of listening to English directly and see how much progress you'll make. Stay tuned for the next chapter, where we'll talk more about the importance of listening for language, not just meaning. Keep practicing and don't give up. Chapter 2: Listening for meaning versus listening for language. Welcome to Chapter 2. Now that we've discussed the importance of listening to English directly, without translating into your native language, it's time to take that concept even further. In this chapter, we're going to explore the difference between listening for meaning and listening for language. Understanding this distinction is crucial for your progress in learning English. Let me ask you a question. When you listen to English, what are you focusing on? Are you primarily trying to understand the meaning of what's being said? Or are you also paying attention to the language itself, the words, the structure, and how sentences are formed? Most people, when they listen, are focused mostly on meaning. They want to understand what the speaker is saying, and that's perfectly natural. But here's the catch. While understanding the meaning is important, it's not enough to truly improve your English. Let me explain why. When we listen to English, we should not only be listening for meaning, but also for the language itself. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone is telling you a story in English. They describe what happened, and your brain quickly processes the meaning, what happened, who was involved, and the overall message. However, if you're only focusing on meaning, you're not really paying attention to how the language is working. You're not noticing how the sentences are constructed, the use of grammar, the choice of vocabulary, or the intonation. These are the things that, when you notice them, will improve your understanding of the language and help you use it correctly. Let's take a closer look at both types of listening. Listening for meaning. When you listen for meaning, Your focus is on comprehension. You're trying to figure out what the speaker is saying. This is the first step when you're learning a language, understanding the general idea of what's being communicated. It's very important to be able to understand the message, but this is just the surface level of listening. For example, if you listen to a conversation in English and understand that someone is talking about going to the store to buy some groceries, you've understood the meaning. But there's so much more happening in that sentence that you're not paying attention to if you're only focusing on meaning. Listening for language. On the other hand, when you listen for language, you're focusing on the structure of the sentence, the use of words, and how English is being used. You're paying attention to things like grammar, vocabulary, word order, and intonation. Instead of just asking, "What is being said?" you're asking, "How is this sentence formed? What words are being used? What makes this English sound natural and correct?" For instance, when you hear the sentence, "I'm going to the store to buy some groceries," you could focus on the meaning, understanding that the person is planning to go to the store. But if you focus on the language, you might notice how the sentence is constructed. The verb going is used with to. The phrase to buy some groceries is a purpose, and the article the is used before store to specify a particular place. You start noticing these details, and that's what makes your understanding of English deeper. So, why is listening for language so important? The answer is simple. If you only listen for meaning, you're missing out on how to actually speak and use the language. It's like watching a movie without paying attention to how the scenes are shot or how the actors deliver their lines. You get the story, but you don't learn anything about the craft behind it. Now, imagine you're listening to a podcast in English. If you're just listening for the meaning, you'll understand the content, but you won't notice things like the word choices used by the speaker or how the speaker structures their sentences. If you listen for the language, you begin to notice those things. Why did the speaker choose this word? How did the speaker structure their sentences to make the message clearer? What makes their speech sound fluent? These are the things you'll need to notice and practice if you want to become fluent in English. The power of active listening. To shift from listening for meaning to listening for language, you need to engage in active listening. Active listening means paying close attention to both the message and the language. Here's how you can practice. Choose an audio or video in English. It could be a conversation, a speech, a podcast, or a movie. Listen to it once for meaning. Just focus on understanding what is being said. Listen again, but this time focus on the language. Pay attention to how the sentences are structured, the vocabulary, the pronunciation, and the intonation. Repeat the process. Keep listening to the same audio until you can notice these details naturally. By doing this, you're not just learning English in a passive way, You're actively engaging with the language, which is exactly what you need to become fluent. The link between listening for language and speaking. Here's the key takeaway. When you focus on listening for language, you're actively training your brain to think in English and understand how to use the language correctly. This helps you when it's time to speak, because over time, your brain will start to recognize sentence patterns and vocabulary. When you speak, these patterns and words will come to you more naturally. Imagine you've been listening to a lot of English podcasts, and you've really started to focus on how the speakers use phrases and connect their ideas. The next time you're in a conversation, you'll find it easier to use the same structures and phrases. That's because your brain has started to internalize the language, not just the meaning. Final thoughts. In conclusion, when you're learning English, don't just listen for meaning. Listen for the language itself. By focusing on how English works, how sentences are formed, how words are chosen, and how intonation changes the meaning of a sentence, you'll improve your ability to speak and understand English more effectively. Active listening for language will take your English skills to the next level. In the next chapter, we'll explore the importance of repetition in your listening practice. Trust me, this will play a huge role in how you improve your language skills. Keep going, and I'll see you in Chapter 3. Chapter 3: The Importance of Repetition. Welcome to Chapter 3. By now, you've learned the importance of listening to English directly and understanding both meaning and language. Now, we're going to talk about something that is absolutely crucial to mastering English: repetition. Repetition is a powerful tool when it comes to language learning. It's not just about hearing the same thing over and over. It's about deeply internalizing the language and making it a part of your natural thought process. So, let's dive into why repetition is so important and how you can use it to drastically improve your English skills. Why repetition works. Have you ever heard the saying, "Practice makes perfect"? Well, when it comes to learning a language, repetition is the key to practice. The more you listen to something, the more your brain gets used to the sounds, the vocabulary, and the sentence structures. In essence, repetition helps your brain encode the language into long-term memory. Think of your brain as a sponge. Every time you hear or practice something in English, your brain soaks it up. But just like a sponge, your brain can only hold so much at once. If you don't squeeze the sponge or review what you've learned, the information starts to leak out. Repetition is like squeezing the sponge. It allows you to lock in what you've learned and make sure it stays with you. Let me explain this further. When you first hear something in English, whether it's a sentence or a new word, You may understand it in the moment, but if you don't hear it again, it's easy to forget it. That's why repetition is so important. By repeating what you've learned, you are strengthening the neural connections in your brain, making it easier to recall and use the language when you need it. Repetition helps with retention. One of the most common challenges language learners face is retention, remembering what they've learned. Many learners can understand English when they hear it or see it, but when they try to speak, they struggle to recall the words or sentence structures. This is where repetition comes in. The more often you repeat something, the more likely it is that it will stick. Let's take an example. Imagine you're learning a new vocabulary word. The first time you encounter the word, it's a little unfamiliar. You may try to memorize it, but you'll probably forget it in a few hours or days if you don't use it again. However, if you repeat the word multiple times, whether by hearing it, writing it, or speaking it, the word will gradually become familiar. You'll start recognizing it more quickly, and it will eventually become a permanent part of your vocabulary. This process applies to everything in English, whether you're learning vocabulary, listening comprehension, or sentence structure. Repetition helps reinforce and solidify what you've learned. Without repetition, even the best lessons or methods won't lead to long-term success. Repetition builds fluency. Another huge benefit of repetition is that it helps you develop fluency. Fluency is not just about speaking quickly, it's about speaking with ease and confidence. The more you repeat the same material, the more comfortable you'll become with the language. Over time, your brain will start processing English automatically, without needing to translate or think too much about it. You'll start speaking more naturally, without pausing to search for words or struggling to recall grammar rules. For example, imagine you're practicing a conversation. The first time you go through it, you may stumble or need to pause to think about how to respond. But if you repeat that conversation several times, you'll start to recognize patterns in the language. You'll become more comfortable with the sentence structures and the vocabulary, and soon you'll be able to participate in the conversation much more easily. It's important to note that repetition is not about doing the same thing over and over mindlessly. It's about practicing deliberately and with focus. By repeating the same material while paying attention to the details, like sentence structure, vocabulary, and pronunciation, you ensure that your repetition is purposeful and effective. Repetition enhances listening skills. In addition to helping you with speaking and vocabulary, repetition also plays a crucial role in improving your listening skills. The more you listen to the same passage or speech, the more familiar you become with the way the language sounds. You'll begin to recognize the rhythm, the intonation, and the pronunciation patterns that are unique to English. Think of it like listening to a song that you really love. The first time you hear the song, You might not know all the lyrics, but after hearing it multiple times, you can sing along with it easily. Language works in the same way. By repeatedly listening to the same English audio, you start to get used to how native speakers sound and how they construct sentences. Over time, this will make it easier for you to understand spoken English in real-life situations. How to use repetition effectively. Now that we know how important repetition is, let's talk about how to use it effectively. Here are some tips to make the most of your repetition practice. Choose quality material. Make sure you're listening to or reading high-quality English material. Whether it's a podcast, an audiobook, a YouTube video, or a speech, make sure the content is clear, accurate, and interesting to you. Repeat with purpose. Don't just listen to the same thing mindlessly. After each repetition, ask yourself, what you learned. Did you pick up a new word? Did you notice something about the sentence structure? Focus on these details with each repetition to ensure you're improving. Start small, then build up. It's not always necessary to repeat an entire long passage. You can start with short phrases or sentences, and once you're comfortable, move on to longer pieces of content. This helps you gradually build your confidence and understanding. Review regularly. Repetition doesn't just mean listening to something multiple times in one sitting. You need to space out your repetitions over time. This is called spaced repetition, and it's an incredibly effective learning technique. By reviewing content after a few hours, a day, a week, and so on, you ensure that the material sticks in your long-term memory. Listen actively. Every time you repeat something, do it actively. Pay attention to the details. Notice how sentences are structured, the pronunciation, and the flow of the language. By listening with this level of attention, you'll deepen your understanding of English. Conclusion: repetition as a key to mastery. To sum it up, repetition is not just a tool, it's the secret to mastering English. It helps you retain what you've learned, boosts your fluency, and improves your listening skills. But remember, repetition doesn't mean mindlessly doing the same thing over and over. It's about listening and practicing with focus, reviewing regularly, and constantly striving for improvement. The more you repeat, the more comfortable and confident you'll become with English. Over time, it will become second nature to you. So, make repetition a daily part of your practice. Whether you're listening to a podcast, reading a book, or practicing speaking, keep repeating, keep learning, and keep improving. In the next chapter, we'll talk about using technology to help you practice more effectively. Stay tuned, and let's keep moving forward on your English learning journey. Chapter 4: Using Technology for Learning. Welcome to Chapter 4: By now, you've learned the importance of listening directly to English and understanding both meaning and language. You've also understood why repetition is key to mastering English. Now, we're going to talk about something that has transformed the way we learn languages: technology. More specifically, we'll discuss how you can use technology to enhance your English learning experience. We live in a time where technology is everywhere, and it's a powerful tool for language learners. The best part is that you don't have to spend a fortune or attend expensive language schools to benefit from these tools. Technology is available at your fingertips through your smartphone, tablet, laptop, or desktop computer. Whether you're at home, on the go, or anywhere in between, technology makes it easier than ever to practice, learn, and improve your English. So, how can you use technology effectively for language learning? Let's dive into it and explore several methods and tools that can help you on your journey to mastering English. Language learning apps. One of the most popular and effective ways to use technology for learning English is through language learning apps. These apps are designed to help you practice speaking, listening, reading, and writing in a fun and interactive way. Some of the most well-known language learning apps include Duolingo. This app uses a game-like approach to teaching vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structures. It's easy to use and covers a wide range of topics from basic words to more complex sentences. Babbel. Babbel offers courses in English and focuses on practical conversations that are useful in real-life situations. It covers grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. Memrise. This app focuses on building vocabulary through repetition and spaced learning. It uses a combination of video clips and audio from native speakers to immerse you in the language. These apps are fantastic for beginners and intermediate learners. They give you the flexibility to learn at your own pace, whether you're using them for 10 minutes a day or 30 minutes. The key is to use them consistently. Even if you just spend a few minutes each day with an app, you'll see progress over time. Plus, many of these apps track your progress and remind you to review what you've learned, which helps reinforce your language skills. Podcasts and audio resources. Another excellent use of technology is listening to podcasts and audio resources. The beauty of podcasts is that they allow you to immerse yourself in real English conversations, and you can listen on the go. Whether you're commuting, exercising, or even doing household chores, you can learn English in the background. There are many podcasts specifically designed for English learners. Some popular ones include The English We Speak. This podcast, produced by the BBC, focuses on everyday phrases and expressions used by native speakers. ESL Pod, ESL, English as a Second Language. Pod provides slow-paced conversations, helping you understand vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Luke's English Podcast. This podcast features natural English conversations with a focus on humor, slang, and real-world topics. Listening to podcasts allows you to hear the language in context, which helps with understanding how words and phrases are used in real-life conversations. As you listen to podcasts, pay attention to things like sentence structure, vocabulary, and the intonation of the speakers. Repetition is key. Here, listen to the same podcast episode multiple times if you need to. This will help you familiarize yourself with the language and improve both your listening skills and vocabulary. YouTube videos and educational channels. YouTube is a treasure trove of learning materials, offering a wide variety of content for English learners. The beauty of YouTube is that it allows you to watch videos on topics you're passionate about while also improving your English. Whether you enjoy watching cooking tutorials, travel vlogs, or learning about new technology, there's something for everyone on YouTube. Some excellent educational channels for English learners include English Addict with Mr. Duncan. Mr. Duncan's channel focuses on teaching English in a fun and engaging way. He covers vocabulary, pronunciation, and culture, all while making the lessons enjoyable. BBC Learning English. The BBC Learning English channel provides high-quality videos covering a wide range of English skills, including pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. The videos are easy to follow and come with subtitles. Engvid. Engvid offers lessons from various teachers, covering everything from basic English grammar to advanced topics like phrasal verbs, pronunciation, and idioms. The great thing about YouTube is that you can pause, rewind, and even slow down the video if needed. This gives you more control over your learning process. You can also enable subtitles to help you follow along and understand difficult words or phrases. As with podcasts, repetition is essential. Watch the same video multiple times to reinforce what you've learned. Online dictionaries and translators. When you're learning English, it's important to have reliable resources at your fingertips to help you with vocabulary and grammar. Online dictionaries and translators are indispensable tools for language learners. Here are a few that will help you. Cambridge Dictionary. The Cambridge Dictionary is a great online tool for understanding the meanings, pronunciations, and example sentences for words. It also provides audio clips of native speakers, which is excellent for improving your pronunciation. Word Reference. Word Reference is an excellent online dictionary that includes translations, verb conjugations, and a forum where users can ask and answer questions about specific words and phrases. Google Translate. Google Translate is another useful tool, but remember, it's not perfect. It can be helpful for getting the basic meaning of a word or phrase, but it's always better to cross-check with other resources. While it's useful to rely on these tools, I recommend not overusing them. Use them to clarify words or phrases you don't understand, but try to rely on context as much as possible. The more you challenge yourself to understand words in context, the more you'll improve. Language exchange platforms. If you want to take your language skills to the next level, language exchange platforms are a fantastic way to practice speaking and writing. These platforms connect you with native speakers of English who are learning your language. It's a mutually beneficial exchange where you help each other learn and practice. Some popular language exchange platforms include Tandem. Tandem connects you with language partners for text, voice, and video chats. You can practice speaking with native English speakers and help them with your own language. HelloTalk. HelloTalk allows you to chat with native speakers of English through text, voice, messages, and even video calls. You can correct each other's mistakes and learn from one another. Speaky. Similar to Tandem and HelloTalk, Speaky connects you with language learners from around the world. It offers instant messaging and voice chat features. By practicing with native speakers, you'll get real-time feedback and improve your conversational skills. This is one of the most effective ways to practice active speaking, and it also helps you gain confidence in using English in everyday situations. Online courses and virtual tutors. For those who want a more structured learning experience, online courses and virtual tutors can be incredibly helpful. Platforms like Udemy, Coursera, italki, and Preply offer courses and tutoring sessions with native English speakers. You can take lessons on specific topics, such as grammar, writing, or pronunciation, and receive personalized feedback. Udemy and Coursera offer pre-recorded courses that you can take at your own pace. Italki and Preply allow you to schedule one-on-one lessons with professional English tutors who can tailor lessons to your specific needs. These platforms allow you to get more personalized learning, and the interaction with a tutor can provide the support and accountability you need to keep progressing. Conclusion: embracing technology for learning English. To sum it up, technology is a game changer when it comes to learning English. From language learning apps to podcasts, YouTube videos, and language exchange platforms, the possibilities are endless. The best part is that technology allows you to practice English whenever and wherever you are. It gives you the flexibility to choose the learning materials that fit your interests, and it helps you stay motivated and engaged. But remember, technology is a tool, not a magic solution. You still need to put in the effort, be consistent, and practice regularly. By using these technological resources wisely, you'll make huge strides in your English learning journey. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to create a balanced and effective study routine that will help you make the most out of all these technology-driven methods. Keep practicing and see you in Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Imitating Good English. Welcome to Chapter 5. By now, you've learned how to listen directly to English, how repetition helps reinforce learning, and how technology can boost your language learning journey. In this chapter, we'll dive into a powerful technique that can significantly improve your English skills: imitating good English. You might be wondering, what do you mean by imitating good English? Well, this technique is all about copying the fluency, pronunciation, and sentence structures of native English speakers. It's a process of mimicking the way they speak, not just for the purpose of repetition, but to absorb the rhythm, intonation, and natural flow of the language. By imitating the way English is spoken, you begin to internalize the language and develop your own ability to use it fluently and confidently. So let's explore why imitating good English is so powerful and how you can start doing it effectively. Why imitation works. Learning through observation. Humans are natural mimics. From the moment we are born, we learn language by imitating the sounds and words around us. Think about how children learn to speak. They don't sit down with a grammar book or memorize vocabulary lists. Instead, they imitate the sounds, words, and phrases they hear from the people around them. This is how they start building their language skills in the first place. The same principle applies to learning English. When you imitate good English, you are mirroring how native speakers use the language. This helps you improve your pronunciation, understand sentence structure, and use the language naturally. In fact, research has shown that imitation is one of the most effective ways to learn a new language. It not only helps with mastering vocabulary, but also with understanding the subtle nuances of a language, like tone, rhythm, and stress patterns. How imitating good English helps you. There are several ways that imitating good English can benefit you. Improves pronunciation. One of the most immediate benefits of imitating native speakers is that it helps you improve your pronunciation. By copying how native speakers say words and phrases, you learn how to pronounce them correctly. You'll start to sound more like a native speaker, and people will find it easier to understand you. Enhances fluency. Imitation is a key to developing fluency. When you repeat sentences and phrases you hear, you become more comfortable using them in your own speech. As you practice speaking in this way, you start to speak more quickly and naturally without thinking too much about it. Fluency comes from repetition and muscle memory, which is exactly what imitation helps develop. Teaches sentence structure and grammar. By mimicking the way native speakers construct sentences, you also learn proper sentence structure and grammar. You start to notice how English sentences are formed and how different words fit together in a sentence. This helps you build a strong foundation in grammar, which is essential for both writing and speaking. teaches idiomatic expressions. Native speakers often use idioms, slang, and other informal expressions that make their speech sound natural. By imitating them, you start learning these expressions and using them in your own speech. It's an important step in sounding more authentic and less like a textbook. Improves listening and comprehension. Imitating English also helps you become a better listener. As you repeat what you hear, you become more attuned to the sounds and rhythms of English. This sharpens your ability to understand spoken English, even in fast or informal conversations. How to imitate good English. Now that you know why imitation is so effective, let's talk about how to imitate good English in a way that will bring you the most benefit. Choose the right material. The first step in imitating good English is to choose high-quality, authentic materials. This could be anything from listening to a podcast, watching a movie, or even following a YouTube channel that features native speakers. The material should be engaging, clear, and suited to your level. Here are a few examples. Podcasts. Choose podcasts with slow, clear English. Look for podcasts where speakers articulate their words clearly, which will help you mimic their pronunciation. Some podcasts also offer transcripts, which can help you follow along. Movies and TV shows. Watching movies and TV shows in English is an excellent way to hear natural conversational English. You can watch with subtitles at first to help you understand the context, and then try watching without them as you get more confident. YouTube channels. Channels like BBC Learning English or English Addict with Mr. Duncan feature lessons that are perfect for language learners. You can imitate the way the teachers speak in these videos. Audiobooks. Listening to audiobooks is another great way to hear English spoken by professional narrators. Pick books that interest you and practice imitating the narrator's speech patterns. Mimic pronunciation and intonation. When you listen to native speakers, pay special attention to pronunciation and intonation. Intonation refers to the rise and fall in pitch as someone speaks, while pronunciation refers to how words are said. Native speakers often use specific patterns in both of these, and by imitating them, you can sound more like a native speaker. Here's how to do it. Listen carefully. Focus on how each word is pronounced. Notice how vowels are pronounced differently in English compared to your native language. Pay attention to stress, which syllables are emphasized, and how intonation changes at the end of a sentence. Repeat aloud. When you hear a phrase or sentence you like, pause the audio and repeat it aloud. Try to match the speaker's speed, pronunciation, and intonation as closely as possible. The goal is to sound as natural as they do. Record yourself. One way to track your progress is to record yourself speaking and compare it to the original material. This helps you identify areas where your pronunciation or intonation might need improvement. Start with small phrases or sentences. Don't worry about imitating an entire conversation or speech right away. Instead, start with small phrases or sentences. Break them down into manageable chunks and focus on getting each part right before moving on. Here's a step-by-step process you can follow. Choose a short sentence. Start with a short, simple sentence. For example, if you're watching a TV show, pick a sentence that the character says frequently. Repeat the sentence multiple times. Don't just repeat the sentence once. Say it 10, 20, even 30 times if necessary. The more you repeat it, the more it will become ingrained in your memory. Practice with different sentences. Once you've mastered a sentence, move on to another one. You can start stringing these sentences together to create your own conversations. Use shadowing. One of the most powerful methods of imitation is called shadowing. Shadowing involves listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say. Immediately after they say it, as if you're shadowing them, the goal is to match their rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation as closely as possible. Here's how to practice shadowing. Listen to a short clip of native English being spoken. Repeat immediately after the speaker, trying to match their pace, pronunciation, and rhythm. Do this repeatedly until you can repeat the entire passage smoothly without hesitation. The power of imitation. Building confidence and naturalness. By practicing imitation, you'll begin to notice a huge difference in how you speak English. The more you imitate native speakers, the more confident you will become in using the language. The more you practice good English, the more natural it will feel to speak. Instead of struggling to remember grammar rules or vocabulary, speaking will become automatic. You'll start to think in English rather than translating from your native language. Remember, the key to success with imitation is consistency. You won't sound like a native speaker overnight, but with daily practice and continuous effort, you'll see tremendous improvement in your English skills. Imitating good English will help you speak more confidently, accurately, and naturally. Conclusion. Keep imitating, keep improving. In conclusion, imitating good English is a powerful technique that can significantly improve your language skills. By mimicking native speakers, you'll not only improve your pronunciation and fluency, but also gain a deeper understanding of how the language works. This method is essential for mastering English, and it's one of the most effective ways to become a confident and natural speaker. So, start imitating today. Choose high-quality materials, focus on pronunciation, use shadowing, and practice regularly. Over time, you'll start to notice that you're not just learning English, you're becoming fluent in it. In the next chapter, we'll dive into the importance of practicing speaking regularly. Stay tuned and keep working towards your goal of mastering English. Chapter 6. Listening to improve accuracy. Welcome to Chapter 6. By now, you've learned how to listen to English directly, how repetition reinforces your learning, how technology can boost your skills, and how imitating good English can improve your fluency and pronunciation. But now, we're going to focus on something just as essential for mastering English: accuracy. In this chapter, we're going to explore how listening can help you improve your accuracy in both speaking and understanding English. You may have heard the saying, "It's not just about speaking, it's about speaking correctly." In language learning, accuracy means being able to use correct grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary when speaking or writing. While fluency is important, accuracy is just as critical because it ensures that you can communicate your thoughts in a clear and grammatically correct way. The great thing is that listening can be one of the most powerful tools for improving your accuracy. When you listen to high-quality English, you begin to notice how sentences are structured, how words are pronounced, and how grammar rules are applied in real-world conversations. Over time, listening helps you internalize the language and use it more accurately when you speak. So, how can listening help improve your accuracy? Let's break it down. How listening helps with grammar and sentence structure. One of the most important aspects of language accuracy is grammar. English grammar can be tricky, but by listening to correct English repeatedly, you can learn how to use grammar structures properly. Listening to native speakers gives you the opportunity to hear grammar in context, which helps you understand how sentences are formed and how different grammar rules work together. For example, in English, word order in a sentence is crucial. When you listen to conversations in English, pay attention to the subject-verb-object structure, which is common in basic sentences. Let's take a simple example. I am going to the store. She is reading a book. By listening to these sentences in context, you begin to see how the subject, I, she, comes before the verb, am, is, and the object, the store, a book, comes at the end. This becomes natural to you over time. Improving pronunciation through listening. Another critical component of accuracy is pronunciation. When learning a new language, especially one as phonetic as English, it can be difficult to pronounce words correctly, especially because English has many irregular spellings and sounds that are not found in other languages. Listening to native speakers is one of the best ways to improve your pronunciation. Here's how listening can help with pronunciation. Listening to native speakers. Pay attention to how they pronounce each word. Native speakers often link words together smoothly, and they don't always pronounce every sound in the way it's written. For example, the word goes is often pronounced more like gots in rapid speech. By hearing these nuances repeatedly, you'll begin to imitate the correct sounds. Learning stress patterns. English is a language where stress and intonation play a big role in meaning. For example, if you say the word record with the stress, on the first syllable it's a noun, record, but if the stress is on the second syllable, it's a verb, record. Listening closely to how words are stressed helps you pronounce them more accurately. Intonation and rhythm. Native speakers use rhythm and intonation to emphasize important parts of a sentence or to express emotions. By listening carefully to how speakers stress certain words and phrases, you can improve your ability to speak naturally and accurately. 3. Expanding vocabulary and using it correctly. Listening also plays a crucial role in expanding your vocabulary and using it correctly. When you listen to English, you're exposed to new words and phrases in their proper context, which helps you understand how and when to use them. This exposure is key for accuracy because it prevents you from using words incorrectly. For example, listening to conversations, podcasts, or TV shows helps you hear idiomatic expressions, slang, and common phrases that are often used by native speakers. It's important to learn these expressions and understand their meaning so that you can use them naturally in conversation. By listening to the way native speakers use vocabulary, you will also learn how to pronounce words correctly, understand their meanings, and recognize their usage in different contexts. For instance, the word serious can be used in many ways, but hearing how it's used in sentences helps you understand the nuances of the word and its proper usage. Correcting mistakes by listening. Sometimes, even after practicing English for a while, we make mistakes when speaking, whether it's using the wrong tense, mispronouncing a word, or structuring sentences incorrectly. The good news is that listening can help you catch these mistakes and correct them. Here's how. Listen for errors in real conversations. When you listen to podcasts or watch TV shows, pay attention to how sentences are formed. If you notice that the speaker consistently uses the present tense when talking about things that are happening in the future, you'll understand that the future tense is used differently in that situation. By exposing yourself to proper grammar usage, you will start recognizing when you make mistakes in your own speech. Use resources that focus on correction. Many language learning podcasts and YouTube channels provide not just content to listen to, but also language tips and correction techniques. They explain common mistakes and how to fix them. By listening to these resources, you'll start becoming more aware of the errors you might be making. Compare your speech to the correct version. Another way listening helps with accuracy is by allowing you to compare your own speaking to the correct version of the language. This is particularly helpful when you listen to recordings of your own speech. By listening to a recording of yourself and comparing it to how a native speaker says the same sentence, you can identify areas that need improvement. The role of active listening in improving accuracy. To get the most out of listening for accuracy, it's important to practice active listening. Active listening means you're not just passively hearing the words, but engaging with them in a meaningful way. You're listening carefully to how the language is used, and you're actively thinking about what you hear. Here's how you can practice active listening to improve your accuracy. Focus on specific elements. When you listen, focus on one aspect at a time. You could listen for pronunciation, pay attention to how words are stressed, or focus on sentence structure. Don't try to absorb everything at once. This targeted listening helps you focus on accuracy. Take notes. While listening, take notes on new vocabulary, common phrases, or sentence structures you notice. This helps reinforce what you're learning and allows you to focus on areas where you need improvement. Pause and replay. If you hear something that seems interesting or confusing, pause the audio and replay it. This gives you a chance to absorb it more thoroughly. Repetition through active listening will help you improve your accuracy faster. Conclusion. Accuracy comes with practice. In conclusion, listening is not just a tool for improving your listening skills, but also a key method for enhancing your accuracy in English. Whether it's grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, or sentence structure, listening to high-quality English content will help you internalize the correct forms and usage. As you continue to practice active listening, you'll begin to notice your own accuracy improving. You'll start speaking with more confidence, knowing that your grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary are on track. The more you listen to correct English, the more accurate your own speech will become. So, keep listening carefully. Make it a habit to expose yourself to English in different contexts, and pay attention to how the language is used. Over time, you'll see how your accuracy in both speaking and understanding English improves, and you'll feel more confident using the language in any situation. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how speaking practice is just as important as listening practice and how to use speaking exercises to boost your language skills. Keep listening, keep practicing, and stay tuned for the next chapter. Chapter 7. Daily Listening Practice. Welcome to Chapter 7. So far, you've learned a lot of essential skills in your English journey. How to listen directly to English, how repetition improves retention, how technology can be a powerful tool, and how imitating good English can enhance your fluency. But now, it's time to focus on something that's at the heart of all of this: daily listening practice. Daily listening practice is the key to making constant progress in English. It's like exercising a muscle. The more you practice listening, the better you get at understanding and using the language. It's important to remember that language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. You won't become fluent overnight, but by dedicating just a small amount of time every day to listening practice, you will see massive improvements over time. So let's explore why daily listening practice is so important and how you can make the most of it. Why daily listening practice is essential. Imagine you're learning to play an instrument. If you practice for an hour one day and then don't pick up the instrument again for a week, your progress will be slow. But if you practice every single day, even for just 15 minutes, you'll start to notice a huge difference in a short period of time. The same applies to language learning. Listening every day helps you immerse yourself in English, which is crucial for improving your comprehension and fluency. Here's why. Consistency is key. Language learning is all about consistency. By listening to English every day, you expose yourself to new vocabulary, sentence structures, and pronunciation on a regular basis. This consistent exposure is what builds a deep understanding of the language. Think of it as feeding your brain with small, digestible pieces of English, which will add up over time. Improved comprehension. The more you listen to English, the more you'll start to understand the language naturally. Your ear will become attuned to the sounds of English, making it easier for you to comprehend spoken language. Over time, listening becomes less about translating and more about instinctively understanding what's being said. Faster vocabulary acquisition. When you listen every day, you're constantly encountering new words and phrases. Repetition and context help you understand how to use these words correctly, and you'll start to remember them more easily. This is a much more effective way of building vocabulary than just memorizing word lists. Better pronunciation and intonation. Daily. Listening also improves your pronunciation. When you hear native speakers talk every day, you begin to understand how words are pronounced, the rhythm of sentences, and the intonation patterns that make English sound natural. You can imitate these sounds and begin to incorporate them into your own speech. Increased fluency. As you listen more, you'll notice that you start processing English faster. This means you'll be able to respond more quickly in conversations, which is essential for developing fluency. The goal of listening practice is not only to understand what is being said, but also to absorb the rhythm and speed of natural English. Conversation 2. How to build a daily listening habit. Now that we've discussed why daily listening is so important, let's talk about how to build a consistent listening habit. It's all about making it easy, enjoyable, and part of your everyday routine. Here are some practical strategies. Start small, but be consistent. One of the most common mistakes learners make is trying to do too much too soon. They might start by listening for an hour every day, but this isn't sustainable in the long run. If you want to build a habit, start small. Start with just 10-15 minutes a day. This might seem like a small amount of time, but it's a great way to ease into the habit. As you become more comfortable, you can gradually increase the time. The important thing is to practice every day, no matter how long it is. Consistency is more important than duration. Even if you can only spare 10 minutes a day, that's still incredibly valuable. It's better to practice consistently for short amounts of time than to have long sessions only once or twice a week. 2.2. Incorporate listening into your daily routine. The key to forming a habit is making it easy and automatic. You don't have to carve out extra time in your day to listen to English. You just need to integrate it into your existing routine. Here are some ways you can do that. Listen during daily activities. You can listen to English while doing other tasks. Whether you're cooking, cleaning, commuting, or exercising, you can always have an English podcast, audiobook, or YouTube video playing in the background. This is a simple way to make listening a regular part of your day without adding any extra time. Use your spare time. Look for small moments throughout your day when you can fit in a quick listening practice. For example, you could listen while waiting for a bus, while walking to class, or during your lunch break. These short moments add up over time and can contribute to your overall progress. Set a reminder. If you have trouble remembering to listen, every day, set a reminder on your phone or calendar. This could be a simple notification that says, "Listen to English now." This will help you stay consistent and make listening practice part of your routine. Choose materials that interest. Your listening practice should not feel like a chore. It should be enjoyable and engaging so that you look forward to it every day. If you choose materials that you enjoy, you'll be more likely to stick with it. Here are some ideas. Podcasts. There are thousands of podcasts available on every topic imaginable. Choose one that interests you, whether it's business, history, comedy, science, or something else. Many podcasts are designed specifically for English learners, but you can also listen to podcasts aimed at native speakers to challenge yourself. Audiobooks. Audiobooks are an excellent way to immerse yourself in the language, and they're available for almost any genre of book. Whether you're into fiction or nonfiction, there's something for everyone. Try listening to the audiobook version of a book you've already read to reinforce the vocabulary and structure. TV shows or movies. Watching TV shows or movies in English is another fun and effective way to practice. Start with shows or movies that have clear, slow-paced dialogue and use subtitles if needed. As you progress, challenge yourself by watching without subtitles or with English subtitles. Music. Listening to English music is a great way to expose yourself to the rhythm and pronunciation of the language. Pay attention to the lyrics and try to understand the meaning behind the songs. This is also a great way to pick up slang and informal language. Practice. Active listening. When you listen to English, don't just passively hear the words. To get the most out of your daily listening practice, you need to be actively engaged with the material. Here's how. Focus on comprehension. Don't just listen for the sake of listening. Actively try to understand what's being said. If you don't understand a word, pause and look it up. Try to understand the context and meaning without relying on translation. Take notes. As you listen, jot down any new vocabulary or phrases that you hear. Write down how sentences are structured, or any pronunciation tips you notice. Reviewing these notes will help reinforce your learning. Repeat key segments. If you come across a sentence or phrase that's difficult, pause and repeat it aloud. This helps reinforce pronunciation and structure. The more you repeat, the more natural it will become. Ask yourself questions. After listening, ask yourself questions about what you heard. What were the main ideas? What new vocabulary did you learn? What was the tone or mood of the speaker? This will help you actively engage with the material and improve your comprehension. Tracking your progress. To stay motivated, it's important to track your progress. This can help you see how far you've come and keep you on track for your learning goals. Here are some ways to track your listening progress. Keep a listening log. Write down what you listen to each day. This will help you track how much time you're spending on listening practice and what types of materials you're engaging with. Review your vocabulary. Look back at the new words and phrases you've learned from your daily listening practice. Try to use them in your own conversations or writing to reinforce them. Monitor your comprehension. Over time, you should notice that you're able to understand more of what you hear. You'll recognize more words, understand faster speech, and be able to follow more complex conversations. 4. Conclusion. Make listening a daily habit. In conclusion, daily listening practice is one of the most effective ways to improve your English. By listening consistently, you'll build better comprehension, enhance your vocabulary, improve pronunciation, and increase your overall fluency. The key to success is making listening practice a part of your daily routine, even if it's just for 10-15 minutes each day. The more you practice, the more you'll improve. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to integrate speaking practice into your language routine. Keep listening, stay consistent, and keep pushing forward. Chapter 8. Foundation Skills for Learning English. Welcome to Chapter 8. By now, you've learned a lot of valuable skills and techniques to improve your English, from listening directly and imitating good English to improving accuracy and using technology for learning. But today, we're going to take a step back and focus on something that forms the core of your language learning journey: foundation skills. Foundation skills are the basic building blocks of any language. They are the skills that you need to develop first in order to advance in the language, and they will provide you with the confidence and flexibility you need to use English in real-world situations. Without these foundation skills, it becomes difficult to reach fluency, as you'll be constantly trying to patch over gaps in your knowledge. In this chapter, we'll focus on two essential foundation skills: listening and reading. These are the building blocks of understanding and using any language, including English. While there are other important skills like writing and speaking, listening and reading are critical to mastering the basics. They are your tools for comprehension, and they will serve as the foundation for everything you do as you learn English. Let's explore why these foundation skills are so important and how you can build them effectively. The role of listening. In building a strong foundation, listening is arguably the most important foundational skill when learning a new language. It is the first step in comprehension, and it forms the basis for speaking, writing, and reading. Before you can speak, write, or even read, you need to understand the sounds and structure of the language, and listening provides that essential input. Here's why listening is such a crucial foundation skill. Listening builds comprehension. When you listen to English, you start to understand how the language works in practice. You hear vocabulary and context, notice how sentences are constructed, and pick up on the flow of the language. All of this is vital for building comprehension skills, which are necessary for effective communication. Listening helps you internalize grammar and vocabulary. Grammar and vocabulary are crucial to any language, but it's difficult to truly master them unless you hear them being used naturally. When you listen to native speakers, you naturally start to internalize grammar structures, pronunciation, and vocabulary. You begin to recognize patterns, which will make it easier to produce the language yourself. Listening trains your ear to the sounds of English. English is filled with sounds that may not exist in your native language. By listening to English regularly, you train your ear to these new sounds, which will help you not only understand spoken English, but also pronounce it correctly. Listening develops your ability to process information in English. as you listen. To more English, you become faster at processing information in the language. At first, you might need to stop and think when you hear a new word or phrase, but with consistent listening practice, you'll develop the ability to automatically process information in English, much like a native speaker. How to build listening skills. To build your listening skills, you need consistent and targeted practice. Here are some tips for improving your listening. Start with slow, clear audio. If you're a beginner, it's important to start with slower, clearer audio so that you can easily catch the words and phrases. Use podcasts, YouTube videos, or audiobooks that speak slowly and clearly. As you progress, you can start to listen to more natural speed conversations. Listen to a variety of content. Don't just listen to one type of content. Expose yourself to a wide range of topics, speakers, and accents. This will help you develop a more rounded understanding of the language. Listen to podcasts, watch movies, news broadcasts, or TED Talks, and pay attention to how English is used in different contexts. Listen actively. Active listening is not just hearing words, it's understanding and processing them. Pay attention to the vocabulary, sentence structure, and pronunciation. Try to understand not only the meaning of the words, but also how the speaker is emphasizing certain points. This will help you understand both the language and the culture. Repetition is key. One of the most effective ways to improve your listening is to repeat the material. Listen to the same podcast episode or YouTube video multiple times. This will help reinforce what you've learned and help you catch things you missed the first time. 2. The role of reading in building a strong foundation. Once you have a solid foundation in listening, it's time to focus on reading. Reading is another core skill that helps you build your comprehension and vocabulary. Just as listening exposes you to the sounds and structures of the language, reading exposes you to written forms of communication, the words, phrases, and sentences that make up the language. Here's why reading is such an essential foundation. Skill. Reading expands your vocabulary. When you read in English, you are exposed to a wider variety of vocabulary than you would encounter in conversation. Reading exposes you to academic terms, literary language, and formal or technical vocabulary that may not come up in casual conversation. This exposure helps you understand a broader range of topics and use more precise language when speaking or writing. Reading reinforces grammar and sentence structure. As you read in English, you get to see grammar rules applied in real-world contexts. You start to notice how complex sentences are constructed, how punctuation is used, and how different grammar forms work together. This helps reinforce grammar patterns in your mind and gives you a better understanding of how to construct your own sentences. Reading develops critical thinking and comprehension. As you read, you start to process information in English, which builds your comprehension skills. You'll encounter different writing styles and become better at understanding the meaning of words in context, even if they are unfamiliar. This strengthens your ability to think critically in English and understand what you read more deeply. Reading improves writing skills. The more you read, the more you learn how sentences are structured and how to express ideas clearly. This translates into better writing skills. By reading a variety of materials, you begin to see how to use language effectively to communicate ideas. How to build reading skills. Building your reading skills requires regular practice and a targeted approach. Here are some strategies to help you develop your reading skills. Start with simple texts. If you're a beginner, it's important to start with simple, easy-to-understand materials. You can begin with children's books, beginner-level articles, or short stories. As you get more comfortable, gradually move on to more complex texts. Read regularly. Reading consistently is essential for improving your skills. Set aside time every day to read in English. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day can make a big difference over time. Try to make reading a habit, whether it's reading books, articles, or news online. Focus on comprehension. As you read, your goal should be to understand the meaning of the text. Don't focus too much on translating individual words. Try to understand the general meaning of the sentences and paragraphs. If you come across new vocabulary, try to guess its meaning from context before checking the dictionary. Use a dictionary. A dictionary is an essential tool for improving your reading skills. When you encounter unfamiliar words, take a moment to look them up. But remember, don't rely solely on the dictionary. Try to understand the meaning of the word by looking at the surrounding context first. Read out loud. Reading aloud is a great way to reinforce what you're learning. It improves both your speaking and reading skills. You can focus on pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm while reading, which helps you build both your vocabulary and confidence. Putting it all together, listening and reading as foundation. Skills. Listening and reading go hand in hand in developing a strong foundation in English. Together, they help you comprehend and produce the language more effectively. By focusing on these two skills, you create a solid base for learning other skills like writing and speaking. The more you listen and read, the more you immerse yourself in the language, which leads to better overall fluency. These two skills will help you build vocabulary, understand grammar, improve pronunciation, and process English in real time. Conclusion: building your English foundation. In conclusion, listening and reading are the foundation skills that will set you up for Success in learning English. Without a strong foundation, it's difficult to build other language skills. By listening to high-quality content and reading regularly, you develop a deeper understanding of the language, improve your vocabulary, and strengthen your grammar. These skills will serve as your tools for comprehension and communication. As you continue to build your foundation, remember that consistency is key. Make listening and reading a daily part of your routine, and over time, you'll see remarkable improvements in your ability to understand and use English. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to set effective language learning goals to help you continue making progress. Stay tuned and keep building your foundation skills. Chapter 9. Reading to improve language skills. Welcome to Chapter 9. You've already learned how listening and reading are two essential foundation skills for mastering English, and we've discussed how listening helps with comprehension, pronunciation, and fluency. Now, we're going to dive deeper into reading, specifically how it plays a crucial role in improving your overall language skills. Reading isn't just about recognizing words on a page. It's about actively engaging with the language to expand your vocabulary, improve your understanding of grammar, and develop your writing and speaking skills. Reading exposes you to new words, expressions, and ideas, and helps you internalize the structures and patterns of English. In this chapter, we'll discuss why reading is so important, how it contributes to your overall language development, and how to use reading effectively to improve your skills. The power of reading in language learning. Reading is often considered the cornerstone of language learning because it is an active and continuous source of exposure to new language material. It is through reading that you get to experience real-world usage of grammar, vocabulary, idioms, and sentence structures. Unlike spoken English, which can sometimes be informal or simplified in everyday conversation, written English offers a more polished and structured example of the language. Let's take a closer look at how reading contributes to improving your overall language skills. Expands vocabulary. One of the most obvious benefits of reading is that it exposes you to new vocabulary. Reading allows you to encounter words in context, which helps you understand their meanings and how to use them properly. You might come across unfamiliar words, but by understanding them through the context in which they are used, you'll start to remember them more easily. For example, let's say you're reading a novel and you encounter the word melancholy. If you see this word used in a sentence like, "The mood of the room was filled with a sense of melancholy," you can guess that it means something like sadness or sorrow. By reading, you can also learn synonyms, antonyms, and different forms of the word. How to use reading to expand your vocabulary. Read diverse materials. Read books, articles, newspapers, and even online blogs. The more you read, the more varied vocabulary you'll encounter. Take notes. Whenever you come across a new word, write it down along with the context in which it was used. Try to use the word in your own sentences later. Use a dictionary or translation app. If you don't understand a word from the context, look it up. But remember, try to rely on context as much as possible before checking the dictionary. 2. Reinforces grammar and sentence structure. Reading is also one of the best ways to improve your understanding of grammar. When you read English, you see grammar in action. You notice how sentence structures are built, how punctuation is used, and how different tenses and verb forms work together. This reinforcement helps you understand grammar in a more intuitive way, rather than simply memorizing rules. For example, you might read a sentence like, "I had been studying for hours before the test." By seeing this sentence in context, you naturally understand how the past perfect continuous tense is used to describe an ongoing action that was happening before another event in the past. Reading regularly exposes you to the correct structure of sentences, so you don't have to consciously think about grammar when speaking or writing. The more you read, the more the grammar will stick, and the easier it will be for you to construct your own sentences correctly. How to use reading to improve grammar. Focus on sentence patterns. When you come across sentences you find interesting or complex, pay attention to their structure. What tenses are used? How is punctuation applied? Reread and analyze. After reading a paragraph or page, go back and analyze how the sentences were constructed. Identify the parts of speech, verbs, and clauses. Practice writing your own sentences. Once you've understood a sentence structure, try writing your own sentences using the same pattern. This helps reinforce the grammar you've learned through reading. 1.3 Enhances reading. Comprehension. Reading helps develop your ability to process information quickly and retain what you read. Comprehension is about understanding not just the individual words, but also the ideas and themes presented in the text. When you read regularly, you become better at quickly identifying the main ideas, understanding the meaning of complex sentences, and inferring information from context. In addition, reading exposes you to different writing styles. Some texts may be more descriptive and narrative, while others may be more analytical or formal. Exposure to different types of writing increases your ability to adapt to various contexts, whether you're reading a novel, a newspaper article, or a scientific paper. How to improve reading comprehension. Read a variety of genres. Diversify the types of reading material you consume. Read fiction, nonfiction, newspapers, research papers, and more. This will help you improve your ability to understand different writing styles and subject matter. Summarize what you've read. After finishing a chapter or article, summarize the key points in your own words. This helps solidify your understanding of the text. Ask questions. As you read, ask yourself questions about the material. What is the author's main point? What do the characters feel? What is the theme of the article? This deepens your understanding. Improves writing skills. Your reading habits directly impact your writing skills. The more you read, the better your writing will become. When you read English texts, you get exposed to well-constructed sentences, varied vocabulary, and different writing techniques. Over time, you absorb these techniques and can apply them in your own writing. This helps you write more coherently, effectively, and creatively. For example, reading different types of texts teaches you how to organize ideas logically, use appropriate transitions between sentences and paragraphs, express ideas in a clear and engaging way. How to use reading to improve writing. Pay attention to writing styles. Notice how different authors structure their writing. Do they use a formal tone or an informal one? How do they link ideas together? By understanding these writing strategies, you can apply them to your own writing. Write summaries or reviews. After reading a book or article, write a summary or a review of the material. This helps you practice writing while reflecting on what you've learned from the reading. Imitate good writing. If you come across a sentence or passage you really like, try to imitate it in your own writing. Focus on using similar sentence structures and vocabulary to recreate the style. How to maximize your reading practice. Now that we know why reading is so essential for improving your language skills, let's talk about how to make the most of your reading practice. Here are some tips for improving your reading skills and making it a habit. Set reading goals. Setting clear goals for your reading practice will help you stay motivated and track your progress. Decide on how much time you'll dedicate to reading each day or how many pages or chapters you'll read. For example, I'll read 20 pages a day. I'll finish one chapter a week. I'll read a book in 1 month. Having goals helps you stay focused and measure how much you're improving over time. Choose material that interests you. If you want to build a reading habit, make sure you're reading material that excites you. It's much easier to stay committed to reading if the content interests you. Whether it's novels, biographies, or articles on topics you care about, the more engaging the material, the more likely you are to stick with it. Challenge yourself. While reading things you enjoy is important, don't shy away from challenging yourself. Gradually push yourself to read more advanced material or texts that use more complex vocabulary and sentence structures. This will help you continue improving and expand your knowledge of the language. Take notes and review regularly as you read. Jot down new vocabulary, interesting phrases or ideas that you want to remember. Keep a notebook or digital document where you can store these notes. Reviewing your notes regularly helps reinforce what you've learned and keeps the new vocabulary fresh in your mind. Read aloud. Reading aloud is a great way to practice both your speaking and listening skills. By reading out loud, you can practice pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. It also forces you to slow down and process the language more carefully, improving your overall comprehension. 3. Conclusion. Reading as a key to mastering English. In conclusion, reading is one of the most effective and enjoyable ways to improve your language skills. It expands your vocabulary, reinforces grammar and sentence structures, improves reading, comprehension, and helps you develop strong writing abilities. By making reading a daily habit and actively engaging with the material, you'll see substantial improvements in your English skills. As you continue practicing reading, remember that consistency is key. The more you read, the more natural it will feel, and the more proficient you'll become. In the next chapter, we'll discuss how to integrate speaking practice into your routine. Keep reading, keep challenging yourself, and stay tuned for the next chapter. Chapter 10. The Indian Capability for Learning Languages. Welcome to Chapter 10. By now, you've learned how to build your foundation in English through listening and reading, how to practice speaking and writing, and how to use a variety of tools to improve your skills. But in this chapter, we're going to take a step back and reflect on something very powerful: the Indian capability for learning languages. India is often considered one of the most linguistically diverse countries in the world. With over 22 official languages and hundreds of dialects spoken across the country, India is a language powerhouse. But why is this important for your journey in learning English? The truth is, Indians have a natural ability to learn and master multiple languages. This capability doesn't just apply to regional languages, it extends to foreign languages, including English. In this chapter, we'll explore the unique language learning strengths that Indians have, how these strengths benefit you in learning English, and how you can leverage them to accelerate your progress. Let's dive into this fascinating topic. India's linguistic diversity, a natural advantage. India is home to a vast linguistic diversity. It's not uncommon to hear people speak multiple languages, often seamlessly switching between them depending on the context. This multilingual environment gives Indians a significant advantage when it comes to learning new languages, especially English. Multilingualism, a powerful cognitive tool. In India, many people grow up speaking 2 or more languages, whether it's a combination of Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, or other regional languages. Indians often speak their mother tongue at home and learn other languages at school or work. This constant practice of switching between languages gives Indians linguistic flexibility, which is essential when learning any new language, including English. Research has shown that multilingualism has several cognitive benefits. For instance, people who speak more than one language have better problem-solving skills, increased memory capacity, and the ability to adapt to new languages more quickly. Being multilingual helps individuals understand language patterns, pronunciation nuances, and grammatical structures in a more intuitive way. For you, as an English learner in India, this ability to juggle multiple languages means that you likely already possess a natural aptitude for learning English. You are able to easily grasp new vocabulary and sentence structures, thanks to the linguistic agility you've developed through speaking multiple languages. Bilingual education system. A head start in English. The Indian education system plays a significant role in nurturing language skills. English is taught from an early age in most schools across India, and students often have formal training in both their native language and English. English is one of the official languages of India, and it is widely used in government, business, and education. As a result, Indians are exposed to English regularly, both in spoken and written forms, which provides a head start in mastering the language. For many Indians, English is not just a foreign language, but a second language that is learned alongside their native tongue. This bilingual education system fosters an early understanding of language mechanics, which makes it easier to learn English. The more languages you know, the easier it becomes to grasp a new one. Cultural exposure to English, a constant source of learning. India's exposure to global culture is another key factor that makes language learning, especially English, more accessible. Thanks to globalization and widespread access to technology, Indians are regularly exposed to English in various forms. Movies and TV shows, Hollywood movies, international TV series, and documentaries are widely available and often watched with English subtitles. This exposure to authentic English speech helps learners pick up natural expressions, slang, and pronunciations. Media and news. English newspapers, websites, news channels, and social media provide a continuous stream of content in English. As a result, Indians encounter English regularly in both formal and informal settings, which reinforces their language learning. Technology and the Internet. The Internet has opened up vast learning resources, including online courses, podcasts, YouTube videos, and forums, all of which are predominantly in English. Through these resources, Indians are not only exposed to the English language, but also the global community, which further enhances their language skills. This constant exposure helps Indian learners develop a familiarity with the language, even if they are not actively studying it. English becomes part of their everyday life, contributing to both their comprehension and fluency. 3. The Indian advantage. Language learning as a skill. One of the most powerful aspects of the Indian ability to learn languages is the mindset that comes with it. In many cultures, learning a new language can be seen as a daunting or difficult task, but in India, language learning is a natural and essential part of daily life. The environment itself encourages language learning, whether for academic, professional, or personal reasons. For example, Tour 1. Exposure to different accents and dialects. In India, there are numerous regional accents and dialects of English, each with its unique characteristics. Whether it's the British-influenced accent from the South, the American-influenced accents in the North, or the neutral tones of the central regions, Indians grow up hearing and interacting with a variety of accents. This exposure helps them become flexible in their listening skills and better equipped to understand English spoken in various accents. This skill is particularly important in the global world where English is spoken with a wide variety of accents. Whether you're listening to an American, British, Australian, or Indian speaker, you'll have no trouble understanding them, thanks to your early exposure to different ways of speaking. Focus on practical language skills. In India, the primary goal of learning English is not only to pass exams, but also to communicate effectively in professional and social situations. English is seen as a tool for success, whether it's securing a job, interacting with people from different regions, or accessing global knowledge. This practical approach to learning English helps learners focus on using the language in real-world scenarios, which increases their ability to communicate fluently and accurately. This focus on practicality makes Indians goal-oriented learners. They know that English will open doors to better opportunities, and this motivation drives them to work hard and focus on practical communication skills such as speaking, listening, and writing. Leveraging the Indian advantage in English learning. Now that we've explored the natural advantages Indians have when learning languages, how can you leverage these advantages to further enhance your English skills? Here are some actionable steps. Use your multilingual skills to your advantage. If you speak multiple languages, use this skill to your benefit. The process of learning English will be easier because your brain is already trained to switch between different languages. When learning new words, try to connect them to words in your other languages. This can make the learning process quicker and help you remember words more easily. For example, if you speak Hindi and English, you might find similarities between Hindi and English vocabulary, like mother and mata or school and vidyalaya. Use these connections to strengthen your language comprehension and fluency. Immerse yourself in English content. Take full advantage of the wide variety of English media available. Watching English language movies, reading English books, and consuming English news or social media content will provide you with constant exposure to the language. This helps reinforce vocabulary, pronunciation, and sentence structure. Practice speaking regularly. While learning grammar and vocabulary is essential, speaking is often the hardest skill to master. Make it a point to speak English every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Try finding a language exchange partner, using English in social situations, or speaking in front of a mirror. The more you practice, the more confident and fluent you will become. Set practical language learning goals. Since Indians naturally learn English with a practical mindset, set real-world goals for your language learning. For example, aim to be able to hold a 5-minute conversation in English about a specific topic, or set a goal to watch an English language movie without subtitles. Practical, achievable goals will help keep you motivated and focused on your progress. Conclusion: embrace your natural advantage. In conclusion, India's linguistic diversity and its emphasis on English education provide Indians with a unique advantage when it comes to learning English. Whether it's your natural multilingualism, early exposure to English, or the practical mindset that drives your learning, these advantages will help you on your path to fluency. Remember, language learning is not about talent. It's about persistence, consistency, and making use of the resources and advantages at your disposal. As an Indian learner, you already have a head start. Embrace the skills and mindset that come naturally to you, and continue to build on them as you improve your English. In the next chapter, we'll discuss how to overcome common challenges in English learning and how to keep yourself motivated throughout your journey. Stay tuned. Chapter 11. Final Call to Action. Welcome to Chapter 11. We've come a long way together on this journey of learning English. You've learned foundational skills like listening and reading, how to use daily practice to improve, and how to leverage the Indian capability for language learning. You've gained insights into how to practice English more effectively, and now we're at the crucial point where we turn all this knowledge into action. In this chapter, we're going to focus on one final essential aspect of your language learning journey: the call to action. It's time to take everything you've learned and make it a consistent, actionable habit that will propel you towards fluency in English. This chapter will give you the tools and mindset you need to stay motivated and take your learning to the next level. Let's get started. Reflect on your progress. Before we dive into the action steps, let's take a moment to reflect on how far you've come. Look at all the chapters we've covered together. Chapter 1. Introduction to Listening to English, where we learned how important it is to listen to English directly. Chapter 2. Listening for Meaning versus Listening for Language, where you discovered the difference between understanding content and mastering the language itself. Chapter 3. The Importance of Repetition, where you learned how regular practice helps solidify your skills. Chapter 4. Using Technology for Learning, where we explored how to incorporate technology into your daily practice. Chapter 5. Imitating Good English, where you began to understand the power of mimicry and how it enhances fluency. Chapter 6. Listening to Improve Accuracy, where we focused on fine-tuning your understanding of grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. Chapter 7. Daily Listening Practice, where you learned the importance of integrating English into your everyday routine. Chapter 8. Foundation Skills for Learning English, where we discuss the importance of laying a solid base with listening and reading. Chapter 9. Reading to Improve. Language Skills, where you discovered the power of reading to expand your vocabulary and reinforce grammar. Chapter 10. The Indian Capability for Learning Languages, where you understood how India's multilingual environment gives you an advantage in learning English. Each of these chapters provided you with practical techniques, valuable insights, and strategies to help you progress. But now, the real work begins. It's time to turn knowledge into action. The power of consistency. The key to success in learning English, or any language, is consistency. It's not about spending hours studying each day or trying to learn everything at once. What matters most is showing up every single day, even if it's just for a short period of time. Consistency builds habits, and habits form the foundation for improvement. By dedicating a few minutes each day to listening, reading, speaking, and practicing grammar, you're ensuring that your English skills will grow steadily. You don't need to be perfect. What you need is persistence. 1. Create a daily routine. To build consistency, it's important to create a daily language learning routine. This routine doesn't have to be rigid or time-consuming. The goal is to make English practice a regular part of your life. Here are some ideas to help you get started. Morning. Spend 5 to 10 minutes listening to a short podcast or watching an English language video. Try to pick content that interests you, whether it's a topic you love or a short news story. Midday. Read for 10-15 minutes. Choose a book, article, or news piece in English. Don't worry about understanding every single word. Focus on the main ideas and the overall flow of the language. Evening. Set aside 5 minutes for vocabulary review. Go over the new words you encountered that day and try to use them in sentences. Anytime, practice speaking. If you don't have a speaking partner, try talking to yourself in English. Describe what you're doing, share your thoughts, or even narrate your day out loud. Make sure to mix different activities and stick with this routine daily. Over time, this will help make English a natural part of your day-to-day life, just like any other habit you have. 2.2 Set realistic, achievable goals. As you continue learning English, it's essential to set specific, achievable goals for yourself. Goal setting gives you a sense of direction and helps you track your progress. But be sure that these goals are realistic and attainable. Some examples of language learning goals include: I will listen to 15 minutes of English audio every day. I will learn 5 new words every week and use them in conversation. I will read 1 chapter of an English book every week. I will write a short paragraph in English every day. Remember, small goals are more effective than overwhelming yourself with too much. Focus on gradual progress, not perfection. Stay motivated and focused. Staying motivated throughout your language learning journey is often the hardest part. There will be times when you feel frustrated or stuck, but remember, language learning is a process. Progress may not always be immediate, but with consistency, you will improve. Here are some ways to stay motivated. Track your progress. Keep a journal or log of your language learning activities. Write down the books you're reading, the podcasts you're listening to, the vocabulary you're learning, and the speaking practice you're doing. Tracking your progress helps you see how much you've accomplished and boosts your confidence. You might also notice patterns and areas where you need more focus. Point 2. Celebrate small wins. It's important to celebrate your small victories, no matter how insignificant they may seem. Maybe you learned a new word or understood a sentence in English without translation. These are wins. Celebrate every achievement along the way. This will keep you motivated to continue learning. Find a community. Sometimes learning can feel isolating, especially when you're practicing on your own. One of the best ways to stay motivated is to find a community of learners, whether it's a language exchange partner, a group of friends who are also learning English, or an online community. Connecting with others can make the process more enjoyable. You can share your experiences, ask for advice, and learn from each other's mistakes. Focus on the end goal. Remind yourself of why you're learning English in the first place. Whether it's to advance in your career, travel the world, or communicate with English-speaking friends, having a clear end goal will keep you focused. Revisit this goal often to remind yourself of your ultimate motivation. Embrace mistakes and keep pushing forward. One of the biggest barriers to language learning is the fear of making mistakes. But mistakes are part of the learning process. Don't be afraid to speak, write, or practice just because you're not perfect. Every time you make a mistake, you are learning and improving. Be kind to yourself and embrace errors as part of your progress. If you make a mistake while speaking, for example, correct yourself and keep going. Over time, you'll start making fewer mistakes, and your language skills will improve. Conclusion: your journey starts now. In conclusion, language learning is an ongoing journey. You've already taken the first important steps by gaining knowledge and understanding the tools and techniques you need. Now it's time to take action. Use the strategies we've discussed: consistency, goal setting, tracking progress, and staying motivated to make English practice a part of your daily routine. Your path to fluency is in your hands. Embrace every opportunity to practice. Stay persistent. And remember that improvement comes with time and dedication. You've got the skills, the knowledge, and the mindset to succeed. Now is the time to take the leap. Start small, build your foundation, and take action every single day. Good luck on your English learning journey, and I'll see you in the next chapter, where we'll talk about advanced strategies to refine your skills even further. Keep moving forward and never stop learning. Great work today! Every moment you spend practicing brings you closer to mastering your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, progress comes with patience and consistency. If this story inspired you or helped you in your learning journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Easy English Spark channel for more lessons and stories. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your growth. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.